are live. Fantastic. It's absolute pleasure to welcome you, Johanne, to today's LinkedIn Live for Powerhouse Global Conference and Awards 2025. So, and it's all about winning at collaboration. So that's the overarching theme. But let's take a step back first. Introduce yourself, Johanne, because your story is really, really powerful. And it is the essence of why Amp Up Your Voice is where it is doing what it is. So tell me more.
I'll tell you more. Well, thank you for inviting me on. I'm really looking forward to the conference on the 8th of May. So yes, in terms of who I am Joe Penney, and I'm the CEO and founder of Amp Up Your Voice Limited. And we are a modern and progressive anti-racism and a diversity, equity and inclusion consultancy. We work primarily in the corporate space. We work up to mainly at C-suite leadership teams, management teams, really trying to ensure that equity conversation and provide people with tangible and practical advice on how they can, really nail that authenticity in terms of diversity, equity and inclusion. And in terms of my story, which is what you're alluding to, is I set up the business late 2019, and that was a direct result of losing my job to racial discrimination in the corporate sector. And when it happened to me, I was literally blindsided. It affected my personal life, my professional life, and I was at a crossroads really. I could have gone on to get another executive role, but as a Black woman, I knew that the systemic barriers were likely to increase, amplify the more senior I became. And actually, like I said, when it happened to me, I literally had nowhere to go, no support, and no one to advocate for me. So for me, starting the business was really about how do I help other Black women and how do I help other underrepresented groups and individuals to navigate some of these systemic barriers to success, but also have that really successful career and navigate that trajectory. So it's a positive outcome as well.
And I mean, your story is very powerful because you have created something incredible from such a really, really hard place, And I think that, one of the things I love in what you just said, it's tangible, practical things that you're going in to deliver, because I think so many, you see these where you just feel it's inauthentic, unauthentic, whichever the word is, where it doesn't feel natural. It feels very much like it's a tick box, and they're just ticking that box and going, we're done. Lady Anita has joined us.
Oh, hi. Thank you.
And I love that. And it's a great way, creating your own table. I think that's very much what you've done. You've identified where it was going so wrong and the impact it had for you, and have created something really, really quite powerful. And I guess, therein lies the challenge is, there is so much work to be done. And I dare say you probably feel like you're just scratching the surface with it, with where you've got now.
Yeah, I mean, I do say that, we're moving in the right direction. There's lots of nudges, and people are collaborating and working towards that common goal, but it is moving at a glacial pace. And we've seen, recently in light of Trump and, the DE&I rollback, the effect that's had, particularly in the US, and then, obviously US-led companies here following suit. So again, the question, were you authentic in the first place? For me, those with authenticity are the ones that are doing the internal work, right? So yeah. You can have all the statements you want on your website. You can have, when black squares, when George Floyd was murdered, etc. But what are you doing in terms of actually creating change, and that tangible change? And that has to be in your systems. What's upholding the current system? What's in your processes? Is it inclusive? How do your people feel? are you ensuring that psychological safety and that belonging? DE&I for me is a holistic, right? It's like a pie chart. All those things have to be working in tandem with each other. So if you're going to go shoot for one area, you may be successful in that one area, but it has to be that holistic viewpoint to really be successful.
No, and that is critical. I think the other critical point that you make is it starts within. You can't just create a statement and go, yeah, that's it, because, and to use your words, it's that feeling. People have got to feel differently. I'm doing some work at the moment with the police all around their race action plan, and have had the great fortune to listen to Dr. Stuart Lawrence, or not just once, but I think 3 times now. And he himself says, I don't have a problem with being black. It's white people who have a problem with me being black. We need more white leaders at the table, side by side, so that we're changing these narratives. And that for me was so powerful. And I sat, he came into Kent Police College, and he was talking about, seriously, he engaged people by literally talking for the first 45 minutes about a series of situations, and then said, and now I'm going to tell you that person is of colour. And everybody in the room pretty much went, well, why does that matter? But he got them to really feel the emotion within that. And it was just such a shift in the room as a result of that collective understanding with what was being shared. And I think, plays beautifully into the point that you're making. It has to start holistically, but within, so that strength is there in order for it to literally almost course through the whole essence of the organization. Really, it's almost like it's lifeline.
It has to be embedded as a valued culture, right, throughout the business. So it has to be through everything that you do. So not something that sits on a shelf that you bring down as and when you need it. Oh, we need a bit of DE&I. It needs to be threaded and weaved through everything you do. And in terms of leadership, we need more black and brown people represented at these tables. So yes, it's like the white leaders need to have the understanding and the light bulb moment and the recognition. Okay, we need to make some change here. But also, those seats at the table need to be open to underrepresented communities and individuals. And actually, it's not the same like recruitment process, and you need to have inclusive recruitment. And it's something I hear all the time, well, we can't find the talent. Well, the talent is absolutely out there, but we have to change the way that we've been doing things archaically and historically to create that change. So I would like to see much greater representation at the table of black and brown people.
And arguably, it's collaboration, isn't it? Those collaborative conversations that people step into the room with an open mind, with a willingness that we might not necessarily know the definitive answer, but we can co-create through collaboration an answer that works for us all. But we have to, as you say, we have to have more diversity in those rooms and have a seat at the table. So I mean, it's so powerful.
And also, it's not a one size fits all. So actually, what's relevant to one business might not be relevant to your business. You have to really, dig deep, seek to understand where your gaps are, what's the knowledge you need to improve on, what the practical steps you need within your organization, because it is different. And so this is, I would say, like, in the same way as you're going to approach any other aspect of the business is how you're supposed to approach DE&I. Like, really working out what it is that what the needs and requirements are, and working on that. Not, I'm just going to pull down a template, and that won't work,
No, of course.
And also, in terms of that representation piece, it has to start internally, because can you imagine how your underrepresented staff feel when they see all this vocal, external facing sentiment, but actually they're going, because on the ground, this is not what's happening to me. So, and that's where it does tend to fall flat,
Totally. It's that whole disconnection with what's being said versus what's being actually lived, isn't it? You know, that's the challenge. And I think it's so important. You know, what it is the biggest barrier? The fact that organisations don't look holistically. I mean, or is it so nuanced because every organisation is different?
I mean, no, I think. Is it the biggest barrier? I don't know if it's the biggest barrier, but it's definitely a significant one. And you know, let's face it, you know, pre George Floyd, you know, organisations and corporates didn't really recognise the need for DE&I. So this is quite a new mantle. They've, you know, okay, we're 5 years on, but it's still, you know, in business terms, in the embryonic stages. So yeah, I think actually, you know, a lot of the instinctive reaction is to have that knee jerk, oh, let's do this, or let's do inclusive recruitment, or oh, let's revise our policies, when actually, is that what you really need? So I'm always like, slow down, claw it back, really do that needs assessment. What is it? And like I said, and do it in a very business-like way, you know, where are those gaps? What, you know, what do you need to improve on, etc., etc. And you know, even doing quality impact assessments around D&I work really well and help with that educational piece in terms of the people that work there as well.
I'm totally with you. Lady Anita shared, we are the change in the world is waiting for until we understand that colour is the stumbling block to collective effort. We are individuals with great minds, and if we decide to work together, magic happens.
We like magic, as I said at my event. This is what, you know, rooms like these and in, you know, talks like this and conferences like the Powerhouse, that's when the real magic happens, when you're talking to real people in real rooms talking about real work. You know, that's when we're going to see it.
And I think it's absolutely your point about understanding where we are and slow the pace down. I mean, I see it in some other work I'm doing at the moment, and I'm like going, you know, we're not there yet. How can we possibly do that without understanding the context of the gaps that we're actually trying to fill? Right. You know, otherwise we're just creating something for creating's sake, and then it's not actually felt and lived by the individuals that, you know, have actually then got to live and breathe this.
Exactly. And if it is strategic, then there will be parts that you can absolutely go at pace with, because you have a strategy and you know exactly what you're doing. There'll be other parts you know that you need to slow down, etc., and have that understanding. But it needs to be strategic, and measurable, and thinking about the outcomes. We were about to say that, what are the outcomes? So a lot of this work is like, let's do this. Actually, not really thinking about, but where are we going? What are we seeking to achieve? Right.
Yeah, and it's so crucial. You know, it's like, you know, how do you know you've got there? You know, what will be tangibly different for those who are literally living and breathing it as a result of the actions that are going to be taken? They've really got to embody that, and the only way you can do that is when you are taking, you know, deliberate, intentional steps forward when you've considered the context of where you are now.
I think it's you asking about the, you know, biggest barriers, and that's still, do you think that the bias that lives within everyone and more you know, dominant in others is something that people still don't really recognize? So actually doing that deep reflective work, doing that uncomfortable, you know, have I been contributing to this, or has my business been contributing to this, or am I upholding certain, you know, stereotypes or perpetuating it? That work is what when, you know, people say, oh, it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, it's really uncomfortable, because only when you unpick all of that and unpack that can you start to actually make a difference. But if you're going saying, well, I'm not racist, or I don't do this, you know, I'm not discriminatory, you know, you can't really move forward.
No, I agree. And, you know, and I quite honestly hold my hand up. I don't know what I don't know, but help me understand what I don't know so that I can step into those spaces. You know, because as you say, bias is, you know, naturally in in any situation, because you will have, you know, grown up in a world where you have, you know, certain beliefs, value systems as a family, irrespective of, you know, before you get out into the world and, you know, at school and conditioned in ways, you know, it's just effectively endemic.
Yeah, and one thing I always say to my people is that, you know, there's a personal responsibility on all of us to do the work and do the educational work, and the educational part is absolutely free. So Google is free. You know what I mean? Researching, reading, watching movies, listening to podcasts. That's all how you're going to enhance your understanding, build your confidence, and then you're able to tackle some of these uncomfortable conversations and recognize some of those inherent biases. But that educational part, anyone and everyone can do it, you know?
No, exactly. You know, all it takes is a little bit of personal agency and Google.
Yeah, a bit of time, you know. But you know, look at how you know, the film Adolescence. Look how that has taken the whole of the UK by storm. Has restarted off like deep dialogues in terms of what's going on at schools and the violence and knife crime, etc. And it is an educational piece, right? So lots of parents didn't know lots of stuff that was going on in that series. And so, you know, the educational piece doesn't have to be boring. It can be interesting. No. You can watch movies. You can watch, there's loads of stuff on Netflix. You can read amazing books. You can talk to really interesting people, but it's pushing yourself outside of what is normal for you and what's comfortable for you, and gaining that understanding.
I know, you know, almost immersing yourself in it is the word that springs to mind. You know, I thoroughly enjoy conversations, and that's how, you know, I learn about different people, and you know, that's very powerful. But as you say, you know, the film Adolescence has definitely, you know, provoked a lot of conversations, you know, and people have had their eyes opened, because, as I say, we don't know what we don't know, and there are many ways we can educate ourselves. So no, I'm totally with you. I mean, we can't give too much away of what you're going to be sharing on the 8th of May, but you know, because this is only just a little glimpse into the amazing work that you're doing. But I guess if you had to kind of summarize one thing that the world could do right now to begin shifting the needle around collaboration, what would it be?
Yeah, and I signposted that in the beginning about those nudges and that collaboration piece, and absolutely one of our strongest ethoses at Amp Up Your Voice is there's absolute power in building community. There's absolute power in having that representation in the communities that we serve and that serve us, and actually working together to bring about change is the most significant thing that we can do. And I think people are pretty much used to working in silos, or you know, trying to create that change in silos, when actually, I mean, you came to my event, you know, a couple of weeks back, and there was so much power in that room because so many people connected, like-minded people connected, are going off to work together. They're building business propositions and collaborations. And you know, for me, that's the real power, is like, how can we do that collective? And we need buy-in. We need leadership team buy-in. We need the leaders to buy into it, and uphold these conversations as well.
No, and your event was incredible. The energy in the room and the passion of the people in the room was just brilliant. And you know, it was what people were saying and sharing. I just totally connected with it. And I don't think, you know, and I think I said this in my message to you afterwards, thanking you for the event. It was, for me, it was the most connected I've felt in a community setting like that in quite some time. I've done so much work where it's almost I'm having to give all that energy to the conversation. And it was just such a beautiful energy that I learned so much, you know, that evening, and I got to meet some incredible people. So I am very fortunate to the invitation that you shared with me. So moving forward to the 8th, and if people want to barcode leads you to the Powerhouse Global also, so if people want to scan that, they can scan that to book their ticket. But what are you looking forward to at the conference?
I'm just looking forward to shining, some light on where we are now with EDI or DE&I in 2025, and how the conversations have moved on from 2020. So, all the topics we're looking at: cultural humility, cultural competence, psychological safety, belonging. What does that mean, and what does that mean to you, and how can you again, authentically navigate that on the ground. So I'm looking forward to sharing and dropping some of those gems with the audience, and then just keeping the conversation going, because obviously, it's super important to me. I'm really passionate about it. And yeah, I just want everyone to that momentum just needs to be sustained. And I think having conversations like this and having conferences like this is actually doing that. So that's what I'm excited about.
And I absolutely, I'm the same place as you. Is you made it the reference to it. It's people stick to their normal routines. They're not joining the dots. They're not signposting, and it needs the collaboration to do those two things together. Otherwise, the status quo remains as is, and nothing changes. But I think that needs some brave souls leading the way. And I very much see what you're doing as doing that. So I'm super excited to have you joining us on the 8th of May. And we can...
Thank you.
So thank you so much for your time today. And I will let you to the rest of whatever Wednesday has in store.
A lot, as usual, but I'm really looking forward to it. It was a lovely conversation. Thank you so much. And yes, to all the people on the call, definitely get a ticket, join us. It's going to be a great event, and looking forward to it.
Fab. Thanks, Jo.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.